Hello again, this is Joy Butler. Well, I just listened to the Spiritual Rights Foundation's weekly radio show. I think it's called Spirit Talk Radio. It's on KEST at 10 o'clock. Just seeing what they're doing nowadays and what they're talking about. And it's kind of interesting. At the beginning of the broadcast, I think all three of the people who were on the radio show today, Dan, Rick, and Robin, and then they started going on about dissociating. All three of them were talking about how they had to dissociate from people who weren't in agreement with them anymore. And I thought that was pretty amusing myself. They definitely show themselves, even though, most people who listen to the radio probably don't know about the history of the Spiritual Rights Foundation or ISHI Hypnosis Institute. But basically, these schools that are run by the Spiritual Rights Foundation. Oh, I forgot to mention Academy for Psychic Studies. That's also run by the Spiritual Rights Foundation. These schools basically promote within themselves to dissociate or cut off relationships with family, friends, people you work with if they're not in agreement to the teaching of SRF, the Spiritual Rights Foundation. They have promoted and instigated the breakup of families, of parents and children's relationships. So today on the radio show they were talking about how important it is to dissociate, and Robin was talking about how, I was going through changes in vibrations, and I realized I had to cut the cords with people, and I found new friends, And I mean, it sounds like, sometimes you're going to move along in life and move away from friends, but the way that she talks about it and how the Academy preaches it is you don't just naturally evolve out of relationships. No, you cut the cord. You just destroy the relationship. Maybe they tick you off, or you feel that they're not supporting what you're doing at the church, the Spiritual Rights Foundation, or Academy for Psychic Studies, or ISHI Hypnosis. So if they're not supporting you, they're not in agreement with your great, amazing changes and your life now. Because basically, the deeper you get in to serving the Spiritual Rights Foundation, the more it's your life. One of the things that they say over there, if you're further in the program, is that your spirituality has to be number one. Meaning, the Spiritual Rights Foundation, where you're gaining all of your spiritual information, has to be number one. So if family, friends, co-workers, acquaintances, anything disagrees or tries to pull you out of or gain your attention from what you're doing at the Spiritual Rights Foundation, then you need to cut them out. You need to dissociate with them. So that's basically one of the main teachings there. It's very important to cut the cords with people who don't agree with you and what you're doing. And basically, they don't even want to hear the other side of the story often. And this is a common technique of mind control that is used by cults, is basically separating you, isolating you from people who care about you, who know who you are, who are seeing the changes occurring in you and are probably starting to ask questions like, wow, you're acting different, or wow, you're speaking differently, you're using different words. Hey, are you sure this church you're going to is really the right thing for you? You seem a lot different. I'm kind of worried about what you're into. Well, when those things happen, it It will happen if you're connected to the Spiritual Rights Foundation, because you definitely go through changes. That's for sure, but not in the positive way. You are being programmed. You are being slowly taken over by these people. And if you go far enough, if you start joining the clairvoyant training program, if you start joining the ISHI Hypnosis and start getting all their tapes and whatnot, you'll basically, be taken over by the leadership, who will then start getting you to work on their houses for free, their apartments for free. They will start getting you to do work hours. Basically, you're not going to be being paid money, but it's going to help go towards being in the clairvoyant training program, getting a labor out of you, where they don't have to actually pay someone for what they're worth. So definitely a theme of today's radio show was dissociation, at least in the beginning. And it was just interesting how all three of them were talking about that. And that's something that they have to talk about, it's probably on their mind, because a lot of old members who used to be ministers have left this year. About 5 or 6 of them have left, which is a huge amount. It's kind of a testimony to how wonderful and loving the place is, to have so many people leave in such a short amount of time. So I'm sure all three of them are going through trying to keep control over the rest of the members, spewing out the teaching of, you got to cut cords with those that have left this church. You don't want to get involved with them. You don't want to match their energy, so just stay away from them, because as the bishop, Debbie Boucher, has said in a church service, if you associate with anyone who thinks this is a cult, then you are actually going against Jesus effing Christ. That's actually what she said in one of her church services. And I will play that clip another time. I don't have it quite set. So that's the latest. Their broadcast just ended about 30 minutes ago. So I just thought that was pretty interesting, the whole talk about dissociating, and how they were trying to make it sound an actual healthy thing to do. The way that they do it there is extremely unhealthy and unethical in a lot of cases, where I've seen mothers and fathers basically use their child to help them destroy their spouse. You heard that right. I have seen where mothers and fathers, ministers at the Spiritual Rights Foundation, have used their children, have used anything possible to destroy a spouse, when that spouse begins to see that I'm in a cult, this is dangerous, my life is being destroyed, I got to get my kid out of here, I got to get my wife or husband out of here. It's a very scary thing. So that's what cults do. They destroy, they cut the cord, they dissociate with people who are not in agreement with them, even if those people are their own family, their own spouses. The people at the Spiritual Rights Foundation don't really give people a chance. And don't listen to their view that may not be in agreement with their view. It's a very sad situation and very dangerous situation. So that is the end of what I want to talk about right now. So if you're interested in finding out more about the Spiritual Rights Foundation or ISHI Hypnosis or the Academy for Psychic Studies, you can go on to one of my husband's or my blog, which I'll flash at the end of this segment. And thank you for listening, and please leave comments if you so are inspired. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.